Hello and welcome everyone to the first episode of Build on Serverless, Season 2. We're so excited to start this new season, but this time it's going to be 3 months in a row. And for the first episode, we have our featured guest, Ed Lima.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. I remember we did this last year, and I'm really honored to be here for the first episode of the year. It's great.
Yeah, for those of you who couldn't watch the previous season, we did a unicorn loyalty shop or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's it. An e-commerce app using GraphQL.
Exactly. This time around, we run a poll on Twitter and we asked, what would you like to see us doing this time? Build an app from scratch or a mobile app, web app, whatever it is, and try to show you the prototyping skills, all the tools you need to know, and then apply leading practices. So that was the first vote option, and the second one was migrating an application to serverless. So obviously the first one won, and in the second one we're still going to take that into consideration or under consideration if I try to correct my English on that one. So the page you're going to see right now is the page to understand the whole schedule we have. So what we're going to do today is to do a quick intro on the project itself, do a little demo of what the project looks like. And I'm just going to bootstrap the application from the first time, initialize that quickly, add authentication, and go through some of those pieces. We're also going to share links with you. So all the tools I'm using, customization of my terminal, IDEs, all that stuff that people usually like and ask. So we are kind of prepared that for you already. All right, so how this is going to work? So we're going to build a serverless airline. It's going to be an MVP product. And instead of trying to add all these little pieces I really wanted to do at first, which is like fraud detection on bookings or chat bots for actually allowing you to book a flight more quickly, all of these pieces we stripped away so we could have a more complete episode for the best practices on the second half. What you're seeing here from episode number 1 until episode number 6 is what we're going to categorize as prototyping. What we care here is that we're not caring so much about some of the automation pieces and the best practices. All we care is how can we get the fastest possible to something that customers could possibly use. From the episode number 7 and forward, we're going to start applying the good practices. This is exactly what you're going to see of tools that worked really well for us in the prototyping, but may not work 100% when you really need to go to a CI/CD model, multiple developers, and things like this. We obviously have serverless heroes joining us in some of those episodes, so make sure you tune out for this one.
Yeah, I think the exciting part about this whole series is you're building an app in different stages and focusing on different areas, and you go from development and testing and basically mirroring what you do in a proper development process, right? And that's great. I think it's
exactly. So for you who are becoming the very first, I think this for the first episode ever, this is the repo. We can post on a chat for you as well, but this is the repo you can follow, and that's exactly what we're going to be making changes and PRs and things like this. We're also going to do something different. We are going to be making pull requests as we go along for each episode. So you should be able to see progress, and if you want to go back in time and say, what was the change again for episode 1, 2, 3, and 4? That's always going to be named as a pull request. So that means you can fork the project, you can watch, and if you want to make it as a workshop for you or for anybody else, you have all the pull requests and we can follow from there. So here's what's in there, what you should know. The prototyping looks like this. We're just going to go open up the demo in a real short. And the high-level architecture looks more or less like this. This is the prototype. The beauty of this season, though, is we're going to make some different decisions as we invite a new guest, as we understand a few issues or so troubleshoot a few things. We're going to be changing some of that. But for now, what you should have in mind is we will have a catalog service where we basically get all the flights. We're going to be using AppSync for the very front API as a GraphQL. We're also going to be using a booking API. We are going to be using a mix of Lambda and DynamoDB directly with Apache Velocity. We also have a loyalty system where as soon as you book a flight successfully and you paid for it, paid-ish, right? We don't want to charge you for that. You get loyalty points for that as well, asynchronously. And we also have a preferences service, which we may change. Ed and I have been discussing. It sounds like an overkill to have just to switch your meal preference and your luggage preference. Right?
Yeah, I think we can basically add that to your authentication layer incognito. I think that could be a good idea. What I love about this stack is, of course, using microservices. Everything is serverless, and you're using different technologies such as GraphQL and REST. And I keep telling people this. I think it's great to use the best tool for the job. We use different technologies and adapt to what you need. And that's exactly what you're doing here.
Exactly. One of the reasons we're doing this in the second season is we're mixing match lots of different tags to show you how they actually work together and not necessarily a binary option. Yeah. You don't have to say, I'm only going to do REST with Amazon API Gateway, or only I'm going to do GraphQL with AWS AppSync. You could actually use both and use them what they do best. So we're going to be showing a little bit of both. And if you're following every episode, you're going to see how we evolve this. We're going to be changing tools as we get more mature in our stack, and we're going to be changing services or even tooling extensions and so forth. So that's pretty much it for now. And if you are really interested in the front end, which was an amazing experience, by the way, I come from a backend background, and I had to learn design and the front end piece so I could build some of that. Obviously, I had help. If you are here on the stream, so big thank you to Simon Tolborn, who helped me build the booking and kind of some ideas as well. The front end, which I'm going to show you next, it's using ViewJS, obviously the best framework in the world. Or maybe Ed, you disagree, say Angular and React are awesome. I don't know. I have my strong opinions on that one.
I am biased, but I keep changing. I used to be an Angular diehard, and now I'm doing lots of things in React. So again, I think it's the best tool for the job, right? Vue apparently is great, and it's on my list of things to learn as well.
Exactly. So thanks for actually sending a message on the microphone is too loud, so I reduced a little bit now, and let me know if it's better or not.
Is that okay for everyone?
Yeah.
The volume okay?
And to answer your question, yes, we're going to be using Vuex. If you can see at the very right here, we're using Vuex as our state management tool. And we modeled the Vuex exactly as the backend in some shape or form. So you can see the catalog service, the booking service, loyalty service, and the profile service-ish. So that makes so much easier to actually build the backend afterwards. Definitely was a great experience. I'm not an expert in JavaScript. I had to learn everything on my own for the past 3 months. So yeah, expect some challenging, syntax issues, some typos, and so forth.
But that's the beauty of this show, right? Because you're coding in real time, and you have folks out there helping us out to fix and troubleshoot and debug, and that's the beauty of it. We're building this together. It's great.
Exactly. Answering another question now, yes, we're going to be using Amplify. Let's touch on the tooling right now. Before I go to the tooling, let's do a demo. So here's how it looks right now. If you want to try this now, go to airline.serverless.dev. You can sign up for the basic user. I'm going to be stripping that domain, the whole system to another Git repo now, 1 day or so. But go and try this out.
Gotta say, I love the DNS domain, serverless, so it's great.
You can blame Simon. Simon was saying that it was a serverless, and then my surname Lessa, so it kind of makes sense. Obviously, this is responsive. I was trying to build first as a mobile. Everything was designed on mobile first, and then started to increase up and up and up. Unfortunately, again, that was my first time trying to do something like this from scratch. And I thought it was going to be easy to use a progressive web app, a PWA, but Apple didn't really make it easier. So there's a lot of things that didn't work out. Android worked great. So I thought, let's make us a web app, responsive.
Yeah.
Let's get this out. All right, let's do something. All of this is using mock data, by the way. We're not using the APIs yet. We're going to be building the backend as we go. So let's search for the simple flight. We can search for a particular city or the airport code directly. And then from here, we can search London, Madrid, and you can pick up a particular date. And once you have that date, you're going to see a content loader that we designed as well. And here you're going to be seeing the flights. Mind you, the dates are wrong. Like I mentioned, it's actually mock. The idea is that this data now should have come from the catalog service, which we're going to build in the next episode. We also should be able to filter that out in case you don't want to pay too much. Maybe you only want to pay 300 or more or something like this. So you should be able to see some of those. Or let's say you also want to filter by schedule. So we also done that for you, so you can see how we've done it from the front end side of things.
And sorry, someone is asking if we're gonna make this available. So yeah, like Heitor said before, there is a repository, and you'll be able to get the code as we go on the next episodes.
Yeah, if someone is on the moderation, you can even send the link. So it's AWS dash samples, and that's the URL. So anyone can send that on the chat, and you should be able to see it. Back to the demo. So you get the flights from the catalog. You can actually make a query with filters already. You can see that from the query string. So let's select that flight. We can select the flight. Let me disable my dash line real quick because I don't want you to see my cards and things like this, right? Doesn't make sense. So once you select the flight, you should be able to see that. And the beauty of it is that let's say you want to have some name on the card, 8 or less, you can select the country, obviously Brazil, and you can select the postcode. I'm not gonna add in here. And when you select, oh, that's the problem, right? It wasn't supposed to show like this. That's okay. So once you actually have the card number, the 424242 or 414141 is the fake card you can use for transactions. Please do not use your real credit card in here. Once we implement the payment one, we may charge you, and I can't refund you. So please don't make that mistake. If you do it, ping me on Twitter. We can find some way out, but don't obviously come up with some fake receipts.
Yeah.
Right.
And talking about Brazil, so this episode is a Brazilian flavor episode because me and Heitor are both countrymen from Brazil. So.
Exactly. And I know it's leaked. I know.
Yeah.
So the good piece is some of it now.
Yeah.
So what you can also do, you can say let's say you can do something like 11, and then all of the card details that's going through, and all of the card detections, and see if that's valid or not. It's actually going through an iframe. So we are using something called stripe elements to actually send all the card data, but we styled all of these pieces that almost looks like it's coming from the same website, but in fact, it's not. All right, so let's say we got this, and then we pay for that particular flight, and if the payment succeeds, you should be able to go to the bookings part of things, right? So you go to bookings, and then you should be able to see in here. So let's say you select that particular booking, and you can see there's some basic names, some references, and exactly where you're flying to. We haven't implemented the check-in. Maybe we'll, let's see. There's too many features I so wanted to add, but then at the same time, I had the challenge of when are we gonna finish this? We can keep adding features and it doesn't change. So let's say that this was actually a successful booking. I should be able to see my own booking here. And then in my profile, I should be able to click in here. And when I click to my profile, all the bookings I've made, they should be able to be calculated asynchronously through the loyalty service. And the loyalty should be able to see the points, and more importantly, how far off are you to the next tier? Let's say purple, silver, bronze, don't know.
Yeah, you're going to be able to go to the business lounge when your next travel or not? Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the bottom, you have the preferences. Ideally, this should be able to see the preference service, but maybe we're going to do some work in there. So ideally, in here, you should be able to say, select whatever you actually prefer, what's your requirement, and the same with luggage. For now, all we're doing here is just taking some of that, and we're just using the front end and echoing back that option. We could, in a PR, actually use Cognito to update the attributes. So that's pretty much it. This is the demo, exactly what we're going to build throughout the whole episodes. I built every piece of the backend live, and also going to be optimizing the backend with things like CDK, Amplify CLI, Amplify console for CI/CD, and all that great stack that you can see it. I better stop looking at the chat because I'm actually making me distracted. So we had a look at this, the demo, and we also had a look at the PR and some of the tech pieces. Before I walk through the tools, some of you noticed in the schedule we have a bonus episode. So if you go back to the repo and click into issues, you're going to see a issue in here that I need all your help. If there's something that you would like us to do that you're not seeing in the episode, please add your comments in here. And for those who agree, would like that, please just react, make us a comment, right, and a reaction, as if you normally do on Slack. The reason for this is we're reserving a episode for anything that we couldn't cover that we could do. Maybe it is adding step functions as part of this the booking process. Maybe have a state machine that does something way more complicated than the usual. Or maybe you want to do the check-in process. Or maybe better, we just do some analytics or AI ML, whatever. It's up to you. So we're going to be looking at this in about July. So please help us vote whatever you would like to see next. And on August 7th, it's actually you who decides what we're going to do. All right, so let's get started then. So
yeah, someone's asking about the tools, so we're gonna go to the tools now.
Exactly. So because it's gonna take a while to bootstrap the application, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna increase this a little bit now, and let me just use the Node.js in the right version, so otherwise I'm not gonna have Amplify installed. So what we need to do here is I have multiple branches. So I have a develop branch, a Lessa branch, and I have a Twitch branch. So I'm gonna be using the Twitch branch, and that's his own. I already forked the project. I'm going to be making those changes, and like I said, I'll make a pull request to the other ones. So the way we start is by using Amplify CLI. I already have it configured. You just need to run Amplify configure, and the next step is Amplify init. So if that's not clear, let me know, and I can bring a particular terminal just for this. So let's go with this. And to initialize our project, we need to have some of the bootstrapping capabilities. So the name of the project, yes, AWS Serverless Airline. Name of the environment, I'm going to be calling this Twitch. And I'm using Visual Studio Code, as you can imagine already. And I'm using JavaScript. And obviously, I'm using ViewJS. And this is kind of a default, where the front end is. So I'm using source here. I could change it, but again, we're going to change the structure later as we implement a few things. So the distribution dist, we're going to run npm run build and the serve to run it locally. And by default, it's going to be using CloudFormation for that. Yes, I do want to use a AWS profile. So I'm going to be using Twitch. I already have configured, like I mentioned to you. So that's going to be taking a little while now. It's going to be taking about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So that should be essentially bootstrapping an IAM role, an S3 bucket for deployments, all these pieces we need for any project. Let's say you are working, let's say Ed is going to be working on that. What would you do if you were on your own laptop, if you would be able to fork this?
So as you can see there, you create your project and you can select an environment. You can think of environment as a branch, right? So you can have a sandbox where you developing your own environment, and Aitor has his own environment. You can have a team environment as well, or you can just work on those different environments. And what it's doing here is doing lots of things for you. It's setting up permissions, as Aitor mentioned, is setting up a deployment bucket, and is actually preparing all that backend structure to start your project. And then you can start adding different areas or different part of your application, and spinning up the backend as well.
Okay. So because he completed already, if I just go to my Git, I'll be able to see a few files in here. He updates my Git ignore, and I creates a team provider. So if I working in a multiple developers or developers using the same account, or not even, which is going to be a better option, you can just actually clone this, do exactly the same thing, change the environment name, and now I can be using some of that stuff. So this is the basics, right? So before we actually add authentication to it, let's have a look at some quick on the front end piece. We're using Quasar for all of the front end, the components and things like this. For me, it was a godsend. So if you really like some of the front end capabilities, so this is what Quasar is. It gives me pretty much everything I possibly need for the airline. And I did all of the custom branding with colors. I created my own palette, all of those pieces. Obviously, I learned design, but I'm not any expert on this field. So what we use here is all of those pieces we're going to need for like buttons, toolbars, fields, and things like this. If you believe we should be doing more at the front end, we're more than happy to. So you drive how we're going to be doing some of that. Because on Twitter, feedback was mostly, please only do backend. I kind of did most of the front end already for you. And I'm just changing the front end when I need to talk to the APIs. But if you want to build a prototype like this is the tool I use. So Quasar has pretty much everything from Ajax, scrolling, animations, from touch bar, mobile, hybrids, web storage, everything else. It's pretty fancy in the sense of documentation. It's an awesome project, so I would definitely recommend you to check that out.
Yeah, some people don't like those front-end frameworks. I absolutely love it because it makes your life so much easier. I'm not a web designer, but using those components, it's just it looks good and helps you get faster where you need to. And I think this is the whole point of the tools they're using, right? Amplify as well. It makes it easy to get to where you need to go to. Heitor, there's a question here.
Right.
Someone's asking about the prerequisites. So what do you need to, for instance, set up Amplify and get started there?
Sure. So there's a couple of things. So that was going to be my next one, which is good. So on the Visual Studio Code, what I did for you is, let me see. I'm not sure why. Maybe I just need to use a terminal. I'm to zoom in so I can see it. So I'm gonna share this as a comment on the issue. On the PR I'm gonna open. So I did all the comments in here that you will need to bootstrap yourself if you wanted to, and all the customization we're gonna go through next. And on the resources, I added everything for you. So I added everything I'm saying right now and exactly how you can set up Amplify with ViewJS, or how do you start. Chrome extensions I'm going to use next, and a bunch of other tooling, or if you like customizing your IDE or terminal, I added everything there for you. So what you need in Amplify, so let's go to ViewJS really quickly, and because I've done that already. So what you normally do is you install Amplify first, and you also install Amplify CLI, which you can see from this particular website already on the toolchain. Once you install, you run a command called amplify configure. If you don't have an AWS account, AWS configure will actually create all these pieces for you. So basically, you will ask you for IAM users and all these pieces, some admin credentials, and yada, 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 yada. And then it also creates you an CLI profile. All of this stuff I already have from previous development. Once you've done that, the only piece you really need is actually Amplify in it. But that means you can add pieces like authentication, which we're going to do now in a few seconds, or APIs or things like this. That doesn't include the integration with Vue.js or components we're going to do. So you need to go through this. I'm going to show you the code, but essentially once you install these two libraries, one is the Amplify itself, the library, which you're going to use to do API request or read configuration details. And the Amplify CLI is Amplify View is the plugin for Vue.js to do all of these beautiful authentication components or some of those heavy lifting that you normally would need.
So someone is complaining about the volume. So maybe you can try to
Sure, I can do it here and I can do it here as well.
Yeah. Is that better? Yes.
Is it too loud for you? Apologies for that.
No, they're complaining they cannot hear.
Oh, yeah. So it actually is the opposite then.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Let me get back to where I was.
Yeah.
Can you hear now?
Yeah. Is it okay? Yeah. Everyone says okay. I just want to talk a little bit about Amplify. So some people the Amplify has different parts, and I think it's important to explain. So Amplify is a library where you can basically import those different components. It is a framework and also a tool chain that you have the CLI to basically spin up all the backend. So you can put it all together and makes it really easy to deploy those resources in the cloud for you.
Yeah, so for now, today, we're going to be using both the library and the CLI. And then on the next episode, I was going to say tomorrow, not tomorrow, the next episode, we're going to be using the whole tool chain to do CI/CD, all that sort of thing, DNS, all this. So essentially, that's what you need. So Vue, if you're using Vue.js, that's where you start. Similar for Angular, React, and things like this. So what we're going to do now, we're going to start adding Cognito as an authentication. So let's start with the backend first, and then I can show you the code, how the Amplify did all this configuration for us. So let me see if I can get my terminal back. It doesn't seem like it. No problem. I knew that could happen. So here's the terminal now. Let me just make sure I know where I am. Yes, it's here. So what we need to do, let me know if it's too small for you as well as a text. We need to add authentication to it. So essentially we do this, and you already know that I already done my init. Usually, in most common projects, the default works just fine. But because we're stubborn and we have custom needs, I want to do the advanced one, right? So let's see how you get out of this. So essentially, you can choose either sign up, sign in, and in addition to IAM controls and all that stuff. I don't need that because I only need for APIs and the basics ones, right? So I'm just gonna say no, I don't want that additional stuff. And in here, I can say provide a friendly name for your resource and the name. So I'm just gonna say serverless airline off, and then I can pass a user proof from me. So I'm just gonna say serverless airline cognito user po. I know it's not friendly in that way. And I can say that I want MFA. I'm gonna make it optional, but I can make it on all the time. If it is, that will also always force you to make sure you have that in place. I'm just gonna say option for now. And I'm gonna select, I was gonna select both, text message and a top, just in case. And then it's just the basics on when Cognito sends the message to you, what is the message you want it to be displayed to the user? Let's just actually accept the defaults for now. Yes, I want to make sure they provide the email as a registration and the verification code. And do you want to override the default password policy? I think it's good enough for what I need for now. And this is where we customize things. I really need that. In the profile service, you probably noticed we have the first name and then the family name or given name if you're American. And in here, what we need is that it's not enabled by default. So what I'm gonna say, I need given name and I need family name. So these are the attributes I would want to make sure that I have in there. And I also want to have the phone number just in case. And I don't need to have the name or anything else. So let's just do this. And it also asks me, once Cognito vends the token, once he authenticates a user, you have 3 tokens, which we'll show shortly. So you can actually set an expiration of 30 days for refresh, or basically the ability to keep asking for new tokens every now and then. Let's keep it for 30 days. And I want to specify read and write. Because we're going to be using an application which is Amplify to read and write those attributes, we change the default. So we need to say yes to this. So by default, you always have gonna access to email because we set up that way. We want email at the registration. So let's say family name here and given name, and we also need to make sure we are able to write the phone number, right? And possibly the preferred username as well, but we don't need it now. So that's it, and I also need the email verified and phone number verified. So I just, in case I want in the feature to make sure I will only show part of the screen if they are in fact verified and things like that. Okay, so, and then we specify the right attributes as well, which is actually, I was wrong. It was the read attributes, now is the right attributes. So we go pretty much the same way. So it sounds like we have pretty much everything already, so we don't need it, right? Just in case I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think
it's all there. Oh, okay, it's actually there. You already have selected writable by default. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we say okay, and that's pretty much it. Normally, it will just do a push, but I also have a custom need. You're not gonna find this straight away in the docs because it's something we're still gonna be working on adding a way for you to do this more seamlessly. But one thing we need is we want to add a custom attribute. Normally, again, you don't need this sort of thing for now. For Amplify, you just want to bootstrap things quickly, but we need. So let me show you how you can do that today. So if you go back to the list of files that have been changed, you now have something interesting. You have Amplify Backend. That's something we didn't have before. You see that we have a auth. If we were to add Amplify API, add Amplify storage or analytics, that's always going to keep creating categories in there, which I'm able to make some changes. Or if I'm interested in learning how is Amplify doing all of this heavy lifting for me, creating the cloud formation, pretty much all of that stuff. What we need to do is I want to add 2 custom attributes. So the way I go from here is I go over here. Let me just increase here once again. If I go to Amplify, I go to my backend, and I can see auth in here, right? If I click in auth, I have both parameters of JSON, which Amplify will inject automatically, and I have my CloudFormation itself. So what we need to do is on the user pool, we need to add 2 custom attributes. If you keep on scrolling, or better yet, let me just search for user pool.
And that's what I love about Amplify. Look how much it generated for us, just answering a few questions. So you have this whole CloudFormation template that you don't have to know CloudFormation, you don't have to develop this template. It was all built for you, and it will generate that backend automatically in minutes.
Exactly. So as you can see, these are all the ones we selected, right? But it's missing 2. Amplify Select didn't give us the option until now, at least now, maybe it will soon, to actually add custom attributes. So what you can have in here, and by the way, it's a feature request. So Amplify is being developed in the open. That's why we can say these things without a problem. So let me actually just copy and paste this, and I just want to add 2 custom attributes. So I don't want to make it required, and I want to make sure I can have a luggage preference, and I want to make sure I have a new preference. Obviously, the required is going to be false. If you try this now, that's going to fail because this is a custom attribute. You also need to tell, all right, so what is the type? Is it a string? Is it an integer? What is it?
So this is what we were talking about before, right? About the preferences service. So you can actually store those preferences as attributes incognito, and that makes lots of sense.
Yeah, instead of building an API just for loyalty preferences, it just doesn't make sense for us because we only have 2 preferences.
Yeah.
If we were to have multiple preferences, something more complicated, then I will absolutely vouch for having a service for that.
Yeah.
And by the way, it would just be a GraphQL type job done. So what we need to do now is we need to find the right attribute. I don't know things by heart. If you know it, good luck. So let me just actually do a quick search for user pool. So if I go in here, that's the CloudFormation definition. Like I said, you don't need to know any of these things if you're just following the best practice for Amplify. I have custom needs. What I need to go is I have schema, and in this schema, I have my schema attribute. Clicking there, you're going to be able to find a few things that I can go. So what we're looking for is the attribute data type. So we need, that's the right way, and we need as a string. So if you go back in here, and we say this and this should be as string. Is that capital? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Perfect. So that's the first piece. What we also need to do is we need to make sure that this is injected as a part of a parameter of Amplify as well. So what we need to do is we need to get this. Go back to parameters now. Let me just do a quick check because I always do a typo. I have language preference. I have now required is mutable. You can write, and it's a string for both.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So on the parameter side, you're going to see a lot of these things. What you care is, you see that you have required attributes, and you have the read attributes, and you also have the write attributes. Remember, those custom attributes are not required. We need to make it readable and writable. So let's do this. So I'm going to go over here and here as well, and I'm going to add the prefix is called custom, right?
Yeah.
So you add this, and then you go back in here, and then you say this is a new preference. We also need a command, so we make JSON happy. So now I have read attributes and I have write attributes. Okay, so let's see if that works. I'm gonna go back to my terminal, and I'm just gonna do a push in Amplify, which means it's gonna take a little while now, but you will. If I go to a status first, just in case, I should be able to see you have an auth category, and the operation is create. We never created that piece. So just do a push. And that's now, it's going to take a little while, I suppose. So let's just say yes. And in the meantime, I can take a little sneak peek at the questions, or I can just go and show you the ViewJS code that integrates with Amplify. Any big question?
There is an interesting question. So how Amplify compares to the serverless framework? And I just have an opinion that I think it's great to have all those tools. Serverless framework is absolutely fantastic. Amplify is also absolutely fantastic, and it's great to have the options. But yeah, how would you respond this question? So,
okay, so they're actually different things, right? So on the Amplify, they follow something called what we call convention over configuration. as you can see with what we've done, you can you can either follow the defaults or you can customize, and you don't even need to see cloud formation or anything like that. If you were to add a video streaming, for instance, with Amplify, you would just do Amplify video add. That would just do a live streaming for you using all the services and the conventions and the best practices. Serverless framework, it's actually towards, you still have a DSL, so you can quickly configure things like a function or a HTTP backend or things like this. And you also have plugins that extend some of the functionalities they don't have at the core. Serverless framework you would likely use for some of those backends. So it's more like SAM, which we're going to be talking in other episodes. And the Amplify CLI, it will give you all the heavy lifting with the best practices already in place. Serverless framework, you would need to use plugins from someone else you would trust to get some of those best practices built in by default. If you want to use a serverless framework, for instance, to configure GraphQL APIs and such, that's not enabled by default. That's not supported by default. You need a plugin for this. And once you enable the plugin, even then, you need to know exactly what are the properties, how you configure that stuff in place. Usually, my humble opinion, but that's my personal opinion, is whenever I need something really fast, which is the prototyping as we speak, Amplify all the way. I don't even need to think about it. If I need to customize a lot of things like I'm doing right now, can I customize and use one of the escape hatches that Amplify provides? Yes. If not, I go for either SAM or if I go for Serverless framework. So front-end for me is going to be always Amplify. Backend, depending on the level of customizations I need, I would choose either SAM first or then Serverless framework.
So someone is asking just to bump the size, to zoom in a little bit.
Okay.
Small.
Is that on the terminal?
Yeah.
I think it is. I bumped the ID, but now I can barely see it. All right. So that's done. So let's see how that actually worked for us, and then let's see if we can test it now. So if we go back to the Git, now we should be able to see everything here. Just to test things out, I want to make sure. Actually, not this. It doesn't work anymore. I broke it. So I need to run npm run serve. Actually, better yet, before I do this, because I always forget things, we should be able to have a new file in the source that says Amplify exports. Perfect.
Yeah.
So this file has been generated for me because we pushed to the cloud. And then in this case, has only configuration that my front end would need to access user pools and things like this. So let's start the application real quick. And we should be able to now see if there's a authentication in place or not. The ViewJS perspective, if you know front end, the way this is working right now is I configured it in what we call smart components and dumb components. So if you're from front end, please correct me. I learned these things in 3 months. I'm still learning it, and it's a whole different word. I used to say front end was easy. Actually, don't listen to anyone saying that. It's actually really difficult.
Yeah.
So you have the views, which is what we call the smart components. This is where things happen. If I want to fetch bookings, if I want to see the results you saw it, this happens here. So all of the interactions with what we call view X or the state management happens in here. We already have an authentication in place in here. And in the components, things that we're going to be reusing across the board. These are the dumb components. This flight card you have, the booking card, the loader that you saw, even the toolbar. That's our dumb components in here. So it makes it easier for testing as well. If you're interested in doing testing for frontend, let me know. As a bonus episode, we could do that too. Up to you. So what we need to do next is we already configured Amplify. We've done everything in here. The only thing we really need to do is this. So essentially what you do is let me show you here actually better. This is the bootstrapping you need for doing with Amplify, with ViewJS. You basically import the Amplify module that we did it before and import the Amplify view. The file that you saw it before I was showing, this is where it contains all the Cognito user pools. I'm going to be manipulating and talking to my backend. And then here, I simply say, hey, Amplify, every interaction you make, every module you use the resources I just created. So if I'm working in a different team, that AWS export is going to be different.
Yeah. And it's important to point out as well, the AWS exports are going to have identifiers for user pools, APIs, and all the resources you create with Amplify. So that's why it's easily portable, and you can have different resources of different projects and environments.
Exactly. All right, let's just speed up a little bit because we're about at time. So all I need to do is do something like this, and essentially that will create for me already styled the authentication form and everything else. You can check in there. So essentially what I will do now is if I go to, let me go back in here and oops, close this now before I leak anything else. So that should be localhost 8080. If I go in here, you can see exactly like before. The difference now I have the sign up. Now I need to create a new account. But as you can see, I don't have the first name and the last name. That's not what I want. The defaults are always great for these things. But like I said, again, we're trying to customize this as much as we can. Let me just remove this just in case I leak anything else. Right. So what we need to do is we need to customize the sign up because we want. What we can do is I put the link in here for you, but we can also go to the documentation just to make things quicker. If I go to resources now, I have something called ViewJS Authenticator component. So in here, you have authentication components, which essentially is the one that I just mentioned to you. But what I want to do is I want to make sure I have a configuration. So that's going to be the first one. Let's do this. It's too big of a screen for me now. So you need to go to the authentication module. I know this is front end, it's etc., but bear with me, right? So we can do data in here. And in here, are we doing wrong? No, we're not. So we're just gonna use something like this. Let's say authentication configuration, and that's gonna be an object. And in here, I can just simply say this. Right? I have my configuration. That's gonna be read dynamically from there. I don't have any configuration, so that's not gonna work for me yet. So let's get back in here. What do we want? We want to configure the sign up fields. So in here you have the sign up configuration. That's exactly what we want, right? So we need to have this attribute, which is actually gonna be a key. So click in sign up fields. So what we need now is we need the sign up here. There's gonna be another object. And here I have everything else I possibly need. I have the labels, I have the keys, and I have all these pieces, right? So let's do this. So what we need first is a label, actually a key. So the key is going to be the attribute that we need to understand. So I need the first name, right? And I need the required. It has to be required. I need the display order. Let's make it 0. Let's see if it works. Maybe it's 1. Don't know. And then it's not necessarily a custom attribute. So let's make this as a label. We don't need a label actually. It's all good. Let's see if that works now. If it works, we can then go ahead and add others. So let's do this. Let's refresh and let's see if we can have it here. It doesn't seem like we can. Oops. Maybe it's refreshing it. Oops. Let me go back in here.
Did you add the auth config?
I did, and I did add the sign up config. Yeah. So let me just add a label, just in case if that's what's missing. First name. So that's auth config, that's sign up config, label, key, required, and display order. So maybe the display order. Let's go back in here. So I know it should be refreshing, just in case. It might be our first beep. It's actually not. So let me go back in there and say display order equals to 1. I love when those things happen because then you have what's happening here. Let's go back in here. Actually, I'm not seeing it. Let me see if I did anything wrong. So you have the sign up config.
Is there an example though?
Oh, actually, it's a different binding. Oh, but this is the sign up property. So let me go back in here. So we're starting rel actually.
That's a great thing about those episodes, right?
So you have the
debugging
label,
together.
You have the label, you have the key, and you have required is a boolean, and you have the display order. So it must be something. Either I'm actually doing the data wrong, or actually let me have a look. Let's debug ViewJS real quick. So let's go back in here and see if I can see the data in there. I want to see in here, I have the authentication profile. Don't worry if you're not following everything in here. I can explain to you later. So I have the auth config, I have the sign up config, and I have everything here. So that should work. So let's do, maybe it's not the right key, but it should work though. Let me go back in here. If it doesn't work, we turn off and turn it on again. Let's see. So I don't have to be a custom sign up config. That's what it is. I have the auth config, and then in here I have to have an object.
Maybe you need sign up config there.
Yeah, but this is correct. I was thinking, is that the wrong key? No, that's the right key. And then the sign up config is the right key. So let's do this. Let's add a little more here. Oh no, that has to be an array. That's why. Delete. Okay. Sorry guys. And girls. Right. Let's do this.
Yeah, it makes sense because you have to add more attributes.
Okay. Oh, silly me. Okay. All right, let's go back in here. Refresh. My laptop is going crazy now. All right. Create count. And no, it's not. It is an array. It is everything in there. What am I doing wrong?
You have tried that sign up component as well? Because if you go to the documentation.
No, I don't need that. That's an interesting piece. So really interesting. I actually did this last week, and so let me add another one just in case. I'm just gonna add this, and I'm gonna add the one that I just customized. Let's say luggage preference. Right? That's gonna be luggage preference. But then we also have a custom boolean which we need to do. The attribute is custom. Okay, let's do this now. Is it complaining? No, it's not. Just in case, let me just.
There is a comma there. Oh, okay.
Is it? Yeah. So I have linting automatically. Yeah. Just in case, let me just do this. It seems it's not saving though, so I wonder if that's something wrong. My terminal broke, so let's see. I have the first name, I have key, I have required, and I don't see any errors on the console either. I was thinking on enabling debugging, but that's not the challenge because I can see there I can see the data model is there. Let me just check real quick. I have the auth config and have the auth. This is what I love about doing live stuff. Sometimes you get stuck in some of those silly things, which you shouldn't happen. All right, let's go back in here. Let's say create account. Now, okay, let's continue just to make sure we actually get something out off the ground. So let's just add a demo username, a demo capital D 123. This I need to add an email, so I'm gonna add a fake email. Don't do this at home. Once I figure out why it's not working the custom sign up, I'll let you know in the issues on the GitHub or in the PR even. I really don't know what it is, so I'm not gonna make that stop you. So I can have in here, click here. It's an extension that I use, and I also need to create a phone number. I don't want to add my own phone number because otherwise you're gonna be texting, or some people send jokes, so not fun sometimes. So in here I have another link called temporary emails, which I can get a quick link. Like I said, just for testing, right? Don't use this. Don't follow me. If I click here, I can get a quick phone number, and then in here I have 4474, etc., etc. Let's try to create this account. Aha. So it's not going to be able to allow me because I really have this given name.
So you put first name there. Key, maybe it's given name then. Yeah, the first name.
Now we probably got to something, right?
Yeah.
So we got this, and we also have family name, right?
Yeah.
Let's just do this. If that's the case, it's gonna be awesome. So it's family name, right? Now this can we make 1, 2, and let me just wait for the Webpack to do its thing. Okay. But I'm not seeing it.
Yes,
Man, that's a bummer. First episode, we're getting that. Let's go to Cognito real quick. So if you go back in here, when you have the user pool, I have given name, family name,
email phone.
yeah, and I have luggage preference. So it did really create in the way I want. And I just can't. Let me see if I can add that quickly. No, once I've done it. Can't have it. That's a bummer indeed. Okay, let's just prove it works.
Someone is mentioning here, does auth-config require the vbind? So maybe you can give it a try.
Yeah, so I look at the vbind. So this is the vbind. So essentially this is the shortcut for vbind.
Okay.
Maybe it is. We don't know. Let's try that. Maybe Amplify doesn't get that for some reason. But it's weird because if I go open a view, I can see the key being passed along.
I wonder if you put this Amplify sign up there as well. It's required or not.
We can try.
Give it a last try.
Okay. Fine. Do a vbind and do this.
So it's sign up vbind sign up config.
Yeah. Okay. Because otherwise, I was going to show.
Oh no, it just shows.
Just show.
Back there.
So
okay.
it's not really recognizing those keys, which
which
for some reason I really don't know what it is. That's really odd. If I open up the console, let's see if there's anything. If it doesn't work, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna register a new account real quick because I only have a few minutes now. In the other one that I know it's working pretty fine without the custom attributes. I will troubleshoot it later today, and I will post the answer as a PR afterward. I can't see anything here. I can't see anything wrong. Amplify is not giving me anything as well. So I do have the auth config, and I have as an array, and everything is here. I really don't know. Really don't know. So this is indeed supposed to be an array. Well, it is what it is. So let me just set up one real quick. So if I just search airline.dev, initially I would normally set up that particular user. But let's go to profile, and then just to show you how it looks like. I do a sign out, and then if I sign out, I should be able to go to this. Let's say I'm gonna set up a name using Lessa, Twitch, maybe Lessa demo. Then I set up a username, new password. I got a mail address here as well. Go to my temp and set up this. I feel gutted now. I really want to show it works. So let's say we create it, perfect, and I should be able to receive a confirmation code as an email. So it takes about a few seconds, and once it is, we should be able to see. So click here, go to the inbox, and it feels like we already have one. Not yet. Yet.
That's a great extension. How about that?
I'm wondering if I deleted because I was deleting everything on my laptop before I started Twitch. So I wonder if I broke something. But if it's not here, let me just check. Yeah, here. Oh, no, it should be an email.
Yeah, it's usually an email.
Oh, it's actually looking at the wrong email. What a day, huh? What a day. So that should be this guy. This is okay. So it's playing with us. It's not gonna work because it's sending to another email. It's now gone. Let me just create another account and create an account called adlima. Right? Go back in here, get a phone number, create an account. Now we should be able to see an email. Should receive an email. Aha!
There you go.
Troubleshooting pieces, right? But I just can't believe it doesn't work, the sign up. What am I doing wrong? It must be a typo. So if I go back in here now, actually not this one. This one here, I get my confirmation code. And if I sign in, I should be able to get here. Perfect. So when you sign in, what's useful to you as a developer from the front-end perspective, you want to see as much information about the user as possible. But because I'm working in production, I'm not going to be able to see it now. So essentially, I should be able to see, let's say, maybe in the network we could be able to see it. So let's go to all, and we sign out. I forgot I disabled debugging for prod, which is a good thing. Let me just clean up this real quick. And okay, perfect. So you see that Amplify is actually making those queries for us. So I want to make sure I get some of those tokens back. So I get an access a token right here. So here's what Amplify will give us to us. It will inject automatically and make life so much easier. But for now, we just go this format. I want to get this whole access token. I can show you what it looks like, what sort of information you get from. So you go to jwt.io, and then you click in here, and you paste, and you get some information about the cognito, stuff that you're accessing, your username, and things like this. For the profile, which is what we wanted, which it didn't work for custom ones, is when you go to ID token, the identity token, you should be able to get more information out of it. So if I click in here, which is not going to be showing because I don't have custom attributes, it's going to be showing some additional information. For instance, instead of being cognito column username, it will be showing a custom one for us: the luggage, the preference, and the meal preference.
Yeah, but I think the point is, in minutes you had authentication set up for you with JWT tokens, highly secure service on the back end. You can sign in, sign up users using MFA to validate, not MFA, sorry, a code to validate emails and verify emails. All of that in minutes, and that's amazing. There's a little bit of a problem setting the custom attributes, but I'm sure you'll be able to find out what was the problem there.
Yeah.
And I think also very important to mention when you're doing this, Amplify is also, so those tokens, the ID token is valid for 1 hour. Amplify is automatically renewing these tokens. You send a refresh token and renew the token, so it can be logged in for a whole day, or if you come tomorrow, you're still logged in. So it gives that good experience to users, less friction. You don't need to type your password all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's a time saver in general.
Yeah. Just
before I go back, I don't give up easily. So I was thinking, what if I create a user directly here? I'm gonna try. So I was supposed to create a user called demo, right? And then send an invitation via email. Send an invitation? No, I don't need it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to confirm that user, but you can confirm from the console.
Okay. So let's just create a password here. And then we get the phone number. Like I said, I have a few minutes left, so it should be enough for us to try. I really want to show you. So Mark is verified and also need an email address. Now we have this. Like I said, don't use this extension at home. It's just for demo purposes. So let's create a user. I have the user here. Force change password. I don't think we're going to receive any emails anymore because let's just delete this one here. So let's try to sign in here. So let's go back, remove this piece here. Go back to sign in. We create a demo user, and then we create a password. And you should prompt me to change the password. Okay, cool. Now, I really want to show you.
So look how funny it is.
And now I can see it. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let's try. All right, so submit. And now I can go to view. And if I go to profile, I want to see what information that Amplify injected for me and how helpful that is. If I go to profile now, I see I have a user object. So because your screen is not going to look good, I'm just going to copy this, increase to show you what it looks like. Right, so this is how much information I get from Amplify. I get information about the username, the pool. I should be able to see a lot of things in here, including the client. And what's important for me here is the signing user in session. What's great about it, which I just mentioned, is the JWT token here, all of these refreshing capabilities, you don't need to do this stuff anymore. Amplify, every time it tries to do a call, for instance, and it's invalidated, the cognito token is now invalid, it will always try to refresh for you. You don't need to do anything at all. You see, I have information now about my username. I have a given name, and because I don't have that particular customer preference because I couldn't make it work, but now I have a family name, email, even the phone number, a lot more information from what you saw previously.
Yeah.
So I can use all of that to make a lot of decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And you can pass that data to your backend microservices and take advantage of that. For instance, we're talking about the meal preferences, right? And many other things like the first name, last name, customize profiles and things like that is all on the JWT token.
It worked. I was again still trying to figure out why the sign up config doesn't work. I don't know why yet, but that's live stream, right? Everything's live. What we're gonna do next, I'm gonna create a PR and then I will publish that PR once I figure that stuff out. You should be able to follow everything in there. So this is for today's episode. I was trying to do as quick as possible in an hour. So make sure you go to this piece in here. Actually, AWS Serverless Airline. Yeah. So
and
if you go
just
to this
answer
repo,
someone's question right now. So
I will.
See.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
he said I cannot see the code on the GitHub repository. So you're going to basically publish that now.
Okay. So essentially, when you go here, you should be able to go to that particular website, and then in the website, in the repo, I don't want to edit anything.
Yeah.
In the repo, you should be able to see a PR coming up either the next day, because I have to fly to London today. Yeah. I will make the PR, try to fix the sign up for some reason, I don't know why. And you should be able to see an episode 1 pull request. Feel free to follow, even to help troubleshoot if you wanted to. The next episode, we're going to start building the catalog service. We're going to start now building the whole backend piece. And we're going to start showing you how easy it is to do CI/CD using Amplify as well. Like I mentioned, until episode number 6, we're optimizing to fast prototyping. You saw how quick it is to sign up and custom and such. We could even do federation if we wanted to. It's all in the docs. And I'm going to post all those resources, those links, because I know you're going to be asking for later, into the PR description as well. So every episode we have links, resources we access, code that we made some changes, and even some fixes that we probably couldn't fix during the live stream.
Yeah. And I think it's a great idea to start with authorization and authentication because it's essential to any application, right? Security first. And then now we're going to move on to other parts of the application. That's very exciting.
Yeah. Answering one question before we finish, the beauty of it is all of the services we are using are serverless. Yeah. And what that means is that we're only going to pay if we're using it. And to answer your question more specifically, the free tier, yes, everything we're going to be doing falls under the free tier. So there's no concern on that one. Unless, obviously, you create a load testing and you add a lot of files into S3 and play around with stuff, and you may end up paying 20 cents or 30 cents. Yeah. So you never know. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for helping, even troubleshooting that. Yeah. You know, it's pretty cool. Apologies, I couldn't get some of that stuff working the way you should, but hopefully you get the lesson from it that Amplify CLI bootstrap real quick. Cognito user pools are actually being managed for you by Amplify. The sign up, everything else managed as well. The token refresh, all of that stuff that takes a while to get your head around, it's all done for you. So that's the fast prototyping. That's episode number 1. And I see you next week for episode number 2. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to see this whole application deployed and developed and all the best practices we're talking about. So that's awesome. Thank you for having me again.
No problem. Don't forget to vote. We would love to see your reactions to what should we build in the last episode. See you next time.
Yeah.